Hello, welcome. I am so very excited. This is our very first episode of At the Core, which is the intersection between neurology and fitness, which we are going to break down in multiple conversations with amazing movers and professional movers, I would like to call them. And I'm very excited to welcome Kim as our very first person. And Kim is a Pilates instructor and movement specialist. And I will go more into why I call her that, a movement specialist. And she really devoted herself and found the belief in Pilates and the passion for teaching both trainers as well as clients alike, leaving her corporate job and devoting herself to this. And I specifically asked Kim to join me at the core for this interview conversation because of her unique way of moving and her use of props and the fact that she never stops exploring what the body is capable of and how it should or shouldn't move and breaking those barriers down. So Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. It is a real joy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get started in this conversation, I think it's best for the audience to get a feel for some of your movements. And you can find her on Instagram, and we will be posting her information. But I'm going to pull up one clip just to show what she does and kind of how she moves so that this conversation can be better understood. So here's clip one. And you can see there is no nose in any of her movement. And if you start to watch more of her movements, and Kim, if you want to chime in onto why, we'll get kind of into that as well.
Absolutely.
And in a lot of these movements, you can see a lot of foundational principles to general movement, but then she just flips it upside down. And when we talk about neurology and when we talk about fitness and movement, that's what it takes. So, Kim, what is your journey up to this point? What brought you to this point?
It's been a ride. It's definitely been a journey, and it's still going for sure. I'd say I was probably the absolute non-athlete, completely uncoordinated and clumsy. As a child and a teen, did nothing at all. So then in my college years had started taking exercise classes and just very casually, that's where I found Pilates mat work at the gym and stuff like that. But it was just a casual practice. I would say it was probably in my mid-20s when I was working in finance. I'm kind of the type that is like, if I want to learn something, just teach it to me and then I'll take it from there. And I knew my husband and I were probably going to try and have kids in a couple of years. And I thought, that Pilates stuff, I like it, but I feel like I don't know it well enough. And that would be a really good thing to have in my back pocket if I'm at home and I can't get to a gym, if I know how to do it really well. So that was why I got certified. It was never with the intention of teaching. It was just teach me and then I'll know.
And then you just fell in love with it and wanted to share it with as many people as possible.
Yeah. So then like one cut to me having children, he was sort of a difficult infant. I went through big postpartum depression and all of that. So I needed reasons to get out of the house, even just here and there. That's when I started teaching. And it was at a gym because it was just nearby. And gym people, especially in this New York, New Jersey area, they can be a crowd. they can be a rough sales crowd. If they don't like you, they will tell you. And my first training was classical, and I was teaching the rules as I was taught. And not to speak against it, but you have a big group of gym people all over the place in terms of having physical capability. So I was playing it on the very safe side. All right, I don't think they can do X, so I'm not even going to ask them to. Yeah. So I was getting complaints. You're a really sweet girl. This is too easy. This is boring us. And my instinct was to egotistically think it was like, they just don't get the work. Mm-hmm. They're just not, it was to get defensive and say it was their fault. So I went back and forth for a year wanting to completely quit because I didn't want to teach how they wanted me to teach, which I thought was just fast, hard, and just do whatever because that's a workout. And somewhere halfway in, I went, no, maybe there's value to what they're saying. Let me think about this. I bought resistance bands, just like bags of them. And I showed up and taught the exact same class. They loved it. Now I was even more triggered because I'm going, so it's not my teaching and it's not my class. You guys just want toys. And that bothered me. But then I took another step back and I said, well, maybe that's not it. Like, the class is good. Maybe the teaching is fine. But there are some holes when you're in a big group and you can't quite connect to everybody. And the prop can be like an assistant teacher, like a Sue teacher, right? It fills in for that feedback where maybe they're just having trouble finding that feedback. And I can't give it to them at the front of a huge room. So I embraced props. That's kind of where that came from. I started not looking at them like they were inhibiting my teaching, but enhancing it. And it was just helping the people. And so why am I ever going to hate on something if it's helping the person to get the experience?
Well, and I think that's the thing, right? When we talk about fitness and everyone's personal experiences and their connection to their body, their connection to their movement, props can really help that. And once they feel that connection and are able to do the movement, suddenly now they feel so much better. That is why I felt like so many people have not appreciated Pilates mat for what it is, because it's hard. It's hard to do correctly. It's hard to connect well. And so when you have done it with props or done Pilates reformer and go back, you suddenly realize how much there is and how much nuance there is to it. But not everyone's ready for it, or not everyone connects in the same way with it.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree with that. And I stayed in that like more mat, just gym stuff for a little while. And then as my son grew up, that's where I started going into the studio and teaching a bit. And cut to, by the time I had my daughter, I was working for like 7 different gyms, a yoga studio, Pilates studio, and started working for a physical therapist.
I see.
The years I spent working in PT were kind of where like that beginning stuff of mat and props, and then the rest of me kind of came together. Because
it's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's the most educational, challenging experience, but the way I love challenge to be. And they would just give these little, I think 8 30-minute sessions with me for Pilates as they were phasing out of their rehab. So they were finishing and getting ready to move back, to regular life. And so I was constantly getting people, it'd be like 15 to 20 every single week, just 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute. And everybody had something I'd never heard of before. Like I had anatomy training from my own trainings, but this was like, hey, this person is 20 years old with pretty severe cerebral palsy. She really can't communicate verbally. Teach her Pilates. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like I literally don't know how to do that. So I would be as cautious as possible for those 30 minutes. And then every night I would go home and I kid you not, I'd be on Google and I would look up whatever the thing was and read all about it and what I thought, what they would say is good for it. And then just try to apply what I knew from Pilates to that thing. But honestly, so many of them were not going to be able to do 95% of the repertoire as is the repertoire. Plus, for the first year I was there, he only had a reformer. So someone would come in 82 with a walker. Hey, Kim, she can only stand. Okay. Like I have
that is the adaptability. That's the adaptability. I'm sure that person can do more than just stand right now, right? Like with going where the baseline is and moving forward. So I'm going to stop us for a second and we're going to look at 2 more clips just to get a little bit more of an idea of different movements. I think I have a reformer one in there. So we're going to look at 2 clips, 2 and 3 back to back and try to just see a little bit more about your movement. And if you want to chime in, Kim, go ahead and chime in.
Sure. Yeah, so often these brains, that's how I would call it, like brainstorming sessions. I try not to think too much at all, to be honest with you. I used to want to be a writer, actually, when I was in high school. And those skill drills would be, if you can't think of what to write, just put a pen on a page and something will come out. And that's kind of how like my workouts start. I'll just walk over to whether it's the apparatus or the floor, and I don't really have anything in mind most of the time. maybe the box just happened to be on the reformer. I kid you, this is how this happens. Somebody left, I didn't clean up, the box was on. Being honest, I walk over to the machine, cool, I'm gonna lay on the box. And I just do whatever happened to be the first thing that I grabbed, and then I go with that. And then that winds up splaying into some sort of theme that I just build on top of.
And how often do you redo these? Like, do you forget about them in the moment? Are you very much in the moment and maybe never do them again? Is Instagram your safe house of being able to pull them back up?
Yeah, you'll get people in my real life who will go, I can't believe you just like give this stuff away on Instagram or something. You're just handing out your material. And I go, honestly, it's not like I don't value it, but once I do it, sometimes it's just gone and I don't honestly care. So I'm just sharing. There's always more because I'm always moving more. And oftentimes I sit on my couch at night and I'll scroll back through my own feed like 2 years and go, oh yeah, that was cool. Let's do that tomorrow.
That's awesome.
I can't possibly remember it all. And I don't really need to because I just kind of do it on instinct anyway.
So with movement, have you seen a difference? Obviously you haven't always moved this way. You mentioned in high school you weren't a mover, then you got into Pilates mat and a very classical methodology.
Yeah.
So the impetus for changing and creating this experimental way of moving, first of all, when did that start? How did that start? And second of all, what did you feel? Like, how did it make a difference in your life, in your movement, in your brain, in anything outside of even fitness?
Yeah, I've 100% used my own body as sort of a scientific experiment and continue to do so. That's just like my own personal interests. Like, oh, I can't do that. Or I'll see someone do something and go, I don't know if I can do that. And if I can, then I devote myself to figuring out why and practicing it until I can. After my classical training, I got a comprehensive one got a contemporary one several years later and saw the major differences between the two. So having that classical base and then having kind of contemporary laid on top and seeing all the other possibilities, I very quickly grabbed a reformer for my own home and was like, I just want to get on it and just like see what's up. And started bringing people home, my own mat clients from the gym who were into just kind of playing around. And that's sort of kind of how it worked, was like having a classical base and then contemporary laid on top, and the melding of the people that I had to deconstruct exercises for. That's how I see it. I was kind of taking them apart
all
and putting them together in PT, taking them and giving them the pieces that felt accessible and successful for them. And so it wound up being like this. Okay, well, the idea is that we want to get the body to be able to do something more tomorrow than it was able to do today. This is my goal. This is my why, whether it's my body or a person's that I'm training. What can't you do or feel good about doing today that you would like to do tomorrow? Let's work on it. I have tools from Pilates to help you to do that. If they're not Pilates tools and there's interdisciplinary things that I've learned through yoga or through animal flow or through end range mobility training, then we're going to put it all together, because my job is to provide value to you to help you to do the thing.
Yeah.
We just want you to do the thing. Okay. So I'm not boxing out like I'm your Pilates teacher. No, I don't see that as my scope. My scope is whatever I've learned to help the person and the human in front of me to feel better about being able to move. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. How have you personally, in your body or in your mind, in your energy, however it might be construed, your movement changed you?
Oh gosh, it saved me. It's completely saved me. I mentioned briefly that postpartum depression, and it was so intense. It was suicidal. It was all the things. And the pain, I mean, pain is such an interesting science to read about and to learn about in so many ways. But the physical pain that comes along with that sort of a deep struggle and depression, just to have a mindful movement practice, dispersing that feeling throughout the rest of your body, just literally dulls the depressional pain in like a very real way. All the pain I was feeling in here when I was moving, it was somewhere else. So it was therapeutic, it was cathartic, but it was also just dulling the pain. So the amount that I saw that the more I connected to myself, the less I felt disconnected from everything inside, outside. I craved it. And I still do.
That's amazing. You know, neurologically, they talk about these brain pathways, and they say, you know, the frontal cortex of the brain and the front of the brain is our movement center. And so in the processing of how, if we can talk about it, a train travels the tracks, the last spot in the brain is going to be the movement center, or that frontal cortex. And the idea of what is pain, I talked about so much in my neurological practice, in that pain is not just body aching or a muscle pain or nerve pain. It can be anxiety, it can be blurred vision, it can be sweaty palms, it could be weakness. It manifests in so many ways to let us know that we aren't comfortable. We aren't comfortable in that situation, and it's a way to get you to sit down, stop doing what you're doing, retreat away.
Right.
And when we're able to use movement and when we're able to activate ourselves, suddenly what happens is our brain feels so much healthier in inhibiting those pain consequences. Mm-hmm. And so we talk about, as movement specialists, and, you know, a lot of people think of us as psychologists as well, right? People come in with so much stuff or so much depression or so much baggage, and it just starts to slip away. Their back pain no longer is back pain, despite not having a herniated disc or anything else. Right. And just by moving better, being better movers, being more confident in their body, suddenly changes and has this cascading effect neurologically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big part of me when I'm training with people is to try to help to dull that central nervous system response, especially to fear, and how much trust most of my clients I've had, and I count that as like a big feather in my cap. I love that I've had them for years and years and years, because our relationship just grows. And the more they trust me, the more they trust themselves, the more they trust the environment. It's the trust. And then the strength goes from there. But if they don't trust their body, if they don't trust the optimistic ability of their body to heal and move and do something new, then that's where the walls come in. So I do kind of enjoy that new client, to be able to get them past that. It's not really that enriching to me to be like, oh, like he picked up a heavier weight than he did, or more spring weight than he did last week. Or to see that trust start to build in themselves. Like, this is no longer scary to me. I can do this thing. That first clip you showed of me was in my basement, and I was kind of crossing my legs and almost falling. Yeah, I play with fall practices a ton with both myself and people in class. The majority of my clients, to be honest, are between, that one. Did you see me touch? I was starting it off because the first time I tried to get down, I fell. So, and my hand went down, because I have a pretty practiced fall practice. So my body has that instinct. I caught myself. That's kind of how I make exercises up. I fell. Let's make it a thing. So that I kept.
So interesting.
I said,
it is so interesting, because we talk neurologically all the time about the only thing that matters to our first brain is avoiding danger. And the thing that is most dangerous to us is falling, because falling, if we're 5'4" or 6 foot tall, we are crashing our brain to the floor directly with impact, right? And so the thing that the brain cares most about is not falling. And when we can do fall prevention, like you're talking about, when we can feel confident in ourselves, in being able to react, to being able to change, everything changes. Everything changes. And I think that's amazing. I don't think that people think of it that way. I think people think, well, I need to be strong in my biceps and I need to be strong in my quads. And the reality is you need to be malleable. You need to be adaptable.
Right.
There's always going to be something.
My philosophy is not to pretend like things aren't going to happen. They are. You're going to fall. I fall all the darn time. Do you fall well? Should be our better question.
And are you scared of falling, right? And
exactly. Like, are you desensitized to the feeling of falling, where your body actually can catch itself? Because, drunk people fall the best.
Nobody's vision.
Their systems are all sorts of calm.
So I'm going to pull up. I actually have it here. I'm going to pull up, it was in your clip number 4, and it was actually the text of it. It talked about all of the things that we've learned as fitness professionals. And it talks about, should we be shrugging our shoulders or here? Should we be cupping our palms? Should we be rotating our head? Should we be opening up our rib cage? Should, all these things. And if our body wasn't meant to do it, it wouldn't do it, right? Oh, should we shrug our shoulders in flexion? And we've learned all these knees over toes and scooping, and you demonstrate this so well, right? Like gaze balance work. Like, should we always be gaze? And I talk to clients about just the simple one of what you're doing right now is knees over ankles. When we walk down the stairs, our knees are not over our ankles. Literally every single day, when we sit in cars, when we sit in chairs, when we get up off of bar stools, our knees are not over ankles. So if we're always practicing knees over ankles, then all those situations when our knees are not over our ankles, do we feel safe? We go back to this. Yeah. Do we feel like we're going to fall? Do we feel comfortable in those ranges of motion?
Yeah. Yeah. I think our brain has this interesting ability to compartmentalize formal exercise from like, you just did it like outside. And that's so insanely interesting to where like you have this incredibly intelligent human and you point that out and they're like, oh yeah, I guess I did just do that. But formal, we're just like this progressive society where just formal exercise is formal exercise.
Right.
I can hurt myself in here. Actually, we're probably a lot less liable to hurt ourselves when we're being supervised and guided than when you're outside and picking up the wheelbarrow. Mm-hmm. So practice it here where it's under a controlled situation of load, so that you're more prepared for when you're not. But I think that was what I was trying to say, is that like you do these things, but and from me studying yoga and studying weightlifting and studying all the things, everybody has a rule book. They all the modalities have their own rule book, and some of them are complementary and some of them are completely opposing. So if you only exist in your yoga bubble or in your Pilates bubble, then you only know your rules. But if you start to study all of them, you go, well, how can they all be right? It sounds like a little religionish, right? Right? Like somebody's got to be right. Well, how about we're actually all should chill and realize that a bridge if your ribs are down might work it one way, and a bridge if your ribs are up is kind of like a back bend. Mm-hmm. They're both fine. They just have different words. I see, like I've said this to people before, movement is the least proprietary thing that anybody can own. Yoga people don't own yoga. Pilates people don't own Pilates. We put really cute names to things that Mother Nature or whatever you believe, you built the body does the thing. And your body's going, that's a really cute name for a class. I just really want to move.
Right.
We just gotta label everything and make it like a thing.
So how do you see your type of movement, neurology? I mean, you have a Pilates base. It's a Pilates modality that is sprinkled and sauced in with, flows and movement practices and PT practices and everything else. And how do you see that? And you've openly shared on your social media platforms, your views. I'm sure that you've gotten, I find that the community is very supportive. I know that you have something over 28,000 followers. I'm sure you have some people backlashing at you for going into these worlds, but this is the reality. And I think this is the growth that fitness in general has. I think this is the growth that just like a decade ago, the word core was so taboo and so cliche and so overly used. I think that the word neuro is that next word of the fitness world. How do you see this merging? What's the feedback you're getting and the stuff you're putting out there that instructors like me see and love and do personally, and then realize, well, if I'm doing it and I'm seeing that this instructor is doing it, why am I not doing it with my clients?
Right.
And do you
I think what I'm after is I'm the first person to say I respect Pilates in its method. I respect yoga in its method. I'm not trying to disrespect any holistic method by saying there's an also, there's that whole that old style 80-20 thing that you want to do. 20% of your movements, 80, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm just likening it to the fact that like, yeah, do your methods. I'm just sprinkling in the 20%. Right. I'm just here to give you the extra because I just want you to start asking the questions. Just ask the questions. Like, I'm able to do this thing now. I can hold a plank. I've done it. If you want to get stronger, you now have to ask questions, or else it's just a plank forever.
Yeah.
What can you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go on your fingers? Can you move your arm over here? Can you lift it? Like, you're just asking questions. That's all. I just want everyone to start to feel like they're asking questions. And yes, I've definitely rubbed people the wrong way. And it's probably only in the last 2 years that it stopped bothering me. I danced the line because of my Pilates training. There was like my Pilates foot, and then like the real me, who would be like taking a step over and be like, wait, nobody saw me, right? Nobody saw me. Maybe if I come back over, nobody saw me. And then I'm like, why am I doing that? Because there's other people out there who get that, you know?
Well, I think that's the thing as well, right? This plastic change, when we talk about neuroplasticity, the only way to create that brain change, you know, if someone wants to get stronger, you mentioned like, okay, so now you have a plank, but where do you go from there? I think it's this idea of being in your comfort zone. And though we want to be safe, and though we don't want to get injured, and though we may take those steps very slowly, or we may be able to speed along 8 variations and 8 modifications very quickly, depending on what it is, what our background has been, what our injuries, what our experience and beliefs are, right? All of those things that manifest. Ultimately, if you want to stay brain healthy, right? If we want to actually the gray matter versus the white matter, like the actual science behind it in the brain, we cannot stop evolving.
Right. And I think one of the most amazing things about Pilates is, first of all, its accessibility to anybody at all ages in some form. Now, how many things really are there past somebody's, I'm just picking an age, let's say 70, where that person can say, I have the opportunity to learn a new skill literally every day until the day I die.
Yeah.
Pilates gives them that ability.
Right.
The 75, my 8-year-old, they can come in and I know we can teach you a new thing today. It can be doable, it can be successful, and you neurologically, your motor control, your body, you learned a new thing.
Right. And then of course,
how could you argue that that's not, yeah.
And then with that, of course, right, then learning that new thing, chemically what that does to your body with the dopamines and the endorphins, the norepinephrines, the serotonins, like all of these chemicals that make you want to do it more, make you want to explore more, make you want to learn new things more, and then ultimately feel confident outside of the 1 hour a week of your Pilates training to feel comfortable driving at night again, or, you know, meeting with people again, or trying something new, traveling to a foreign place, trying a new food. I mean, it just expands out beyond what can be explained. And that's really why we're having these conversations, right? Like, this whole interview series of At the Core is exactly what you're talking about, Kim, is how do we take fitness and neurology and how do these come together to produce just a better self, a better being?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm never more excited when I get the text messages and the calls from my clients to say, I moved the 8 wheelbarrows today.
That's amazing.
Or I spun my grandkids around and threw them on the floor and nothing hurt. Like that's what I want. Like, I don't want them to need me. The reliance is not the goal. To not give them so many complex things and all of my crazy combinations that they feel like they need me for choreography. That's not the idea. I give that to them just to have fun. But I'm here to help their life to where they feel like they don't need me, but they want me, because it continues to be fun and I continue to teach them new things. But their body has learned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I had an interesting experience in college, and I was a dance student, and I found out that my grandfather had passed away. And it was the first grandparent that I had, first close person in my life that had passed away. And I didn't really know how to process that information. And I ended up going to the dance studio. It was available and open, and I started to move. I started to dance. And explored movement, as you say, and just let my emotions kind of guide my body.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a moment that you mentioned, that movement is your meditation, and that you have these moments of emotion before sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and then you explore through.
Mm-hmm.
And you also mentioned that everyone needs to know their authentic why.
Mm-hmm.
So what keeps you moving each day? What is your authentic why? Why are you doing all of this for your body?
I think, to be honest with you, I've struggled with mental health my entire life. I have a pretty intense personality. I can get very passionate about things. And just like most of our strengths, they can be strengths some places and they can be really destructive other places. I'm an overthinker. I'm an overplanner. I get very anxious. All of the stuff. When I get on the floor, it's gone. It's gone because I have to be 100% present with that. It makes that indispensable. For whatever else it does to my muscles, to my shape, to my what, I don't care. I need it to turn this off so I can be somewhere else, at least for half an hour, for an hour, to just move with feeling, with instinct, with emotion, to just let all the other things go, will always be my personal movement why. I need it. Without it, my health, my personal health, especially mentally, would be far less possible to maintain. I walk away a better mom, a better everything. If I didn't have it, I don't know where I would be.
Did you always find that as your cathartic release and your safe haven, or did you have to accept not judging yourself in exploring movements and things not going the way you planned, or doing a movement and it falling and then exploring that? Like, did you look at that as an opportunity, or did you feel judged for it? Was that where were you in that mindset?
I think I've always done it more behind closed doors than once I started having the Instagram account and was like, okay, I guess everybody's going to see it now. But behind closed doors, I always felt, pretty comfortable to do whatever. Throughout my teens and my early 20s, I just had a lot of other really unhealthy outlets to try to cope with the stresses of daily life. So once I found this, it was not a moment too soon. Exercise can be a vice as well. Like, we could overdo things like that. And there's been moments where that's true. There's absolutely moments where I struggle with, like, okay, you don't actually need to exercise 4 hours today. But I don't do it because I'm trying to, like, lose weight. I do it because sometimes I'm in like such a dark place that I'm like, I have to move.
I think it's important for people to know that too. I mean, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah. And a lot of things that people have gone through during the coronavirus pandemic. And regardless of the pandemic, they state that 1 in 5 American adults are diagnosed. That doesn't include who actually may have a mental health disorder or mental health disease, is diagnosed every single year. And that's obviously those that are diagnosed. And then once they're diagnosed, that's not included in the statistic of 1 in 5. So it's a huge, important thing that sometimes the hardest thing to do for those individuals is to get up off the couch, get out of bed, and move. And yet most people I've spoken to, movement is that medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely been a tough year. And I know that, like, people have really clung to their exercises, even just as it being routine. The Zoom classes that I planned at the beginning of the pandemic for everybody, and I have them every day. And I think I tend to always still, even to this day, have an imposter syndrome where I'm like, you guys don't have to come. Like, that's still me. Because me from the investment days, I'm like, I actually can't believe that people pay me to do this. Like, it's actually still wild to me. So, every other week, I'm like, guys, you don't have to come like 5 days a week. And they're like, we need it. Like, we need the appointment. We need the time. We need to have something in our day that we have to show up for and do something for us. I'm like, okay, great.
And setting it up, making sure it's a value, that they hold a value to it. So I'm going to get a little bit more light and airy with you.
Okay.
And we're going to do a lightning round in which just first thing that comes to mind. So I'm going to read them off to you. And it's literally going to be just the first thing that you think of. All right.
All right.
So working out, morning, afternoon, or night?
Night.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Planks or squats?
Squats. All day.
Shoes or barefoot?
Oh, I don't own shoes. What are those?
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Music or silence?
Music.
Heat or cold?
Hot, like so hot. The cold, get me out of the state.
Inside or outside?
Outside. Jasmine
or peppermint?
Ooh, interesting question. Peppermint. I get migraines.
Okay. Spontaneous or planned?
Say that one again.
Spontaneous or planned?
Planned. Unfortunately.
Well, I know the answer to this one, but learn something new or perfect something known?
Oh, actually, that's a hard one. I would value both. say 2 a day, 1 and 1.
All right, we'll take it. Kim, this was absolutely amazing. I cannot thank you enough for launching this with me on episode 1. And I want to leave the floor to you now. Please speak to the audience about anything you would like to let them know about you, the offerings you have, anything. It's your floor.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, as Misha said, you can find me on Instagram. It's K Mos at Pilates, whatever that is, the hashtag.
We have it in the bottom corner as well.
Yeah, I do have a website. It's movinglifepilates.com, and that just has information about me or how you can contact me and whatnot. There's a link tree on my Instagram with a YouTube channel that has some samplings of classes. But I recently did launch a Patreon account where you can sign up for like a $12 membership, and I'm putting all sorts of fun things. I'm actually having a great time with it, since it doesn't need to be some 60-minute structured class. We can practice little skill drills or roll around on the floor or do some cool balance things. So I'm uploading anything that comes to mind. But yeah, absolutely. Contact me with any sorts of questions, Zoom one-on-ones if you'd like to have them. And I love to have teachers. I love to teach teachers. Super fun to have them and help them along on their journey and find their voice sooner than I did. It took me a little while.
Amazing. Kim, I can't thank you enough. This has been absolutely wonderful. And if you want to find out more information about these talks, more information about myself and my program, you can find us at Central Core PB on Instagram, Central Core on Facebook. We'll be posting this out and having lots of ways for you guys to rewatch this or send it to people that you think could benefit from it. And we look forward to more episodes speaking to movement specialists. And now you understand what I mean by a movement specialist. We really can't categorize these people. They understand the importance of movement and the application of neurology and placing those together for us to move and feel better.
Thanks,
so thank you again, Kim. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Take care.